over 4.3 equals sine of 85 over 8.2. So it looks like number 8 is going to be another rendition of number 7. So here we are. Sine of x equals 4.3 sine 85 over 8.2. Use our inverse sine. So x is going to equal our inverse sine of 4.3 sine 85 over 8.2. Calculator again. X is going to equal, let's see what we got. 4.3 sine of, what did we say, 85 equals, divided immediately by 8.2, it equals, immediately, second inverse sine, second answer, and we're getting something around, let's see, whole degree, so, oh gosh, oh, so close, so close. But 31 degrees is what we would round to in this case. 31 degrees. All right, awesome. All right, let's try it again. Number 9. Well, this is starting to get repetitive. So let's see. Angle, side we don't know. Angle, side we do know. Looks like another law of sine situation to me. So sine, oh, by the way, what are we rounding to? We got a side, so we're rounding to the nearest tenth. Good. So sine of 104 over x equals sine of 22 over 18. All right, little cross products. So 18 sine 104 equals sine of 22 multiplied by x. Divide by sine of 22, so x is going to equal 18 sine of 104 over sine of 22. And here we go. So again, 18 sine 104 equals, divided by, immediately, sine 22, hit equals. So we know that x is going to be, rounding to the nearest tenth, looks like 46.6 to me. Oh, 46.6. We don't know the units in this case, so we'll just say units. All right, number 10. Number 10. It's all starting to run together. Looks like we're finding an angle this time, so that's the nearest degree. Another law of sine. I've got angle, side I know, angle, side I know. The only thing I don't know is that one angle. So let's do it over here. We got some room. Sine of x over 40 equals sine 33 over 27. All right. We'll multiply by 40 on both sides. So sine of x equals 40 sine of 33 over 27. And then we'll use our inverse sine. So x is going to equal the inverse sine of, let's see, 40 sine 33 over 27. Here we go. Again, always start with your numerator. So 40 sine 33 equals, hit immediately, divide by 27. Immediately, second inverse sine of our answer. And we'll find that our angle measure, in this case, still rounding to the nearest degree, looks like it will be a 54 degree angle once we round. 54 degrees. All right, well, let's see here. That takes us through problem 10. That page is done. We need number 11. Here we are, number 11. All right. So find x. There it is. See, round the angle measures to the nearest degree, side lengths to the nearest tenth. We're dealing with a side length, so we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So let's look at what we've got. I've got a side length I don't know across from an angle I do, and then I don't have any angles. Well, that's kind of troubling. So notice, law of sines requires us, for example, let's mark off, here we are, mark that off. I need either two angles and a side or two sides and an angle, and in this case, I don't seem to have it. Here's my missing side that I need, so we put it here, angle, fine. But then I'm missing another angle measure. That's not going to work. So law of sines is out. Looks like law of cosine is going to be, let's see if we can get it all in frame. There we are. Law of cosine is where we're going to want to be. So let's look here. See if we can get all of this to match. There we go. So I know my angle. It's going to go here. My side length, what I don't know, is going to go here. So let's start writing it on that side. So x squared equals, now I need my two sides added together squared here. So let's see here. 20 squared plus 13 squared minus 2 times the two sides that we have there. So times 20 times 13. Let's see, cosine of our angle. Now our angle in this case is 103. So notice, in this case, since I'm finding a side measure, we can just type all that into the calculator and see where we end up. We just got to make sure we type it correctly. So here we go. 20 squared, that matches, plus 13 squared, that matches, minus 2 times 20 times 13. Let's see, times our cosine of, what do we say, 103 hit equal. Now again, what I'm writing down here is a rounded answer. We've got 685.97. But I'm not going to type that into the calculator. Notice what I'm doing is I'm going to leave this number in here. We've got to take a square root. So I'm immediately going to type second, square root, second, answer. That way the calculator will input all of that number, not just my rounded bit that I wrote here. And let's see, what are we rounding to? Side length, so it should be to the nearest tenth, so 26.2. And again, we don't know units, so we'll just write in units. Okay, this is easy. This is easy. All right, see, that was number 11. We need number 12. Here it is. Well, notice number 12 looks really suspiciously like number 11. Again, we've got that angle across from a side we don't know, and then sides across from angles we don't know. So it's going to have to be another law of cosine scenario. Again, still rounding to the nearest tenth of whatever the unit is. So here we go. So again, we'll keep our law of cosines handy so that we can write all this out. So I don't know this side, so I'm going to write it in. X squared equals, now we need the two sides, so 16 squared plus 12 squared, minus 2 times our two sides, so 16 times 12, times the cosine of our angle, and in this case the angle is 89 degrees. So I'm just going to type all that into my calculator again. X squared equals, so here we go, 16 squared, that matches, plus 12 squared, that matches, minus 2 times 16 times 12, that looks like it matches, times the cosine of 89, and that matches. Notice I'm going through each of these. It's real easy to make a mistake when you're typing things in. Hit enter. Let's see, this is 393.29. And again, I'm just writing that down for my own personal reference. X equals, we got to take the square root. So immediately hit second square root, second answer. That way the calculator will put it in for you. And we end up with something, let's see, rounding to tenths. Yep, so 19.8. 19.8. And in this case, units, we don't know the angle that we're messing with. All right. Number 13. Here we go. What do you know? It looks like the exact same problem again. I can't use law of cosine, or excuse me, law of sines rather. We're missing angles that are very crucial. We got sides that we need though, so we'll use law of cosine once again. So the side I don't know, here it is, across from the angle that I do. So x, let's see, we'll write it over here. X squared equals our two side lengths, so 34 squared plus 29 squared minus 2 times the two side lengths, so times 34 times 29 cosine of 111. All right, more calculator work. So I'll take 34 squared plus 29 squared, everything matches, minus 2 times 34 times 29, double check, make sure that's all correct, good, times cosine of 111, 111, that matches, hit enter. X squared equals 2,703 rather, 0.70. And then we need to take our square root immediately. So second square root, second our answer. And let's see what we get. What are we on? Number 13. Rounding to the nearest, see a side length here, rounding to the nearest tenth. It'll let me. There we are. So it looks like we're going to be at what, 52? 52 units. All right, number 14. Daggone if this isn't getting mundane. So, still rounding to the nearest tenth. Here we go. The side I don't know, here it is. So I'm going to write it down here. X squared equals our two sides. So 13 squared plus 35 squared minus 2 times our two sides. So 13 and 35. Cosine of, let's see what we got, 96 this time. 96. Once again, here comes calculator to the rescue. So 13 squared, that matches. Plus 35 squared, that matches. Minus 2 times 13 times 35. 2 times 13 times 35, very good. Times cosine of 96, that matches. Here we go. X squared equals 1,489.12. And again, I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use this. I'm just writing it down just so that way I know what my work is. So, second square root, second my answer. And we're going to get, let's see, still rounding to the 10th position, 38.6 units, since we're finding a side length. All right, and here we go. Oh, finally, something different. So notice, I've got all three sides this time in my diagram. We're trying to find x, which is this angle. Notice I don't know any of the angles. Well, if you don't know any angles, law of sine isn't going to work. Also, if you don't know any angles, trig won't work really for you either. So, at least straight trig. So we're going to have to use law of cosine here to make this work. So let's see what we've got. Our angle that we don't know, remember this is the only spot for an angle, so our angle that we don't know is going to go right there. So I'm going to write it down here just to give ourselves plenty of space. So x cosine. And then remember, this angle and this side bookend each other, so the side that matches up with this angle has to go on the other side here of the equation. So x goes here, that would be side x, so to speak. So 30 squared needs to go all the way over here. 30 squared equals. Now we can write in all the rest of this. So 28 squared plus 26 squared minus 2 times 28 times 26. So let's talk about how to work this problem out. The first thing I would do is work on this side. So all we got to do is take 30 squared. Hopefully you don't have a calculator for that. 900. Okay. Then I'm going to work out all of the stuff over here that I can work out. So for example, I can go ahead and work out 28 squared plus 26 squared. So let's do that. So 28 squared plus 26 squared. I can go ahead and work that out. Okay. Order of operations allows me to do it. So that gives me 1,460. All right, minus. Now notice the rest of this is all attached by multiplication. So I can go ahead and multiply the 2, the 28, and the 26. So let's do that. 2 times 28 times 26. And that gives us, let's see, 1,456 cosine x. All right, so good. So now that we're there, oh, for crying out loud, the phone. Lamar. That's it. Yep. Yep, no worries. And for those of you wondering, yep, that phone call was from Mr. Ritchie, of course. So here we go. So now that we've got this multiplied, we're at this stage. Now remember, this is being attached by multiplication, so I can't just get rid of this. That doesn't work. So here's what we got to do. We need to get rid of this first and then divide by this second. So to get rid of this 1496, we're going to subtract. So we'll take 900, subtract 1460, excuse me. And we will get a negative 560 equals negative 1456 cosine x. Now, to get rid of this negative 1456, we'll divide. So again, we'll go ahead and divide both sides by this amount, and I'll show it here in my work. So negative 1456, negative 1456, and let's see where we end up. So go ahead and hit divide by negative 1456, and there we are. So, out of room, we'll have to do over here. So 0.38 equals, now notice I'm not writing the full amount out, I'm just doing enough to show some work, equals cosine of x. Now remember, to get this cosine to go away, we're going to use the inverse cosine. So I'll say the inverse cosine of 0.38 roughly will equal Rx. So immediately from here on my calculator, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and type in second inverse cosine, second, our answer. That way it's not just this 0.38. You don't want to use this rounded answer. We want everything that the calculator gave us. Hit enter. And again, since we're finding an angle, we were asked to round to the nearest degree. So in this case, we're looking at 67 degrees. So that's how you work law of cosine if you're trying to find the angle measure as opposed to the side. If you're trying to find the side, then it's easy. Just plug all that in and go. If you've got to find an angle measure, you got to do it step by step. So again, what I recommend that you do, just to review the problem, get your left side figured out. Okay? Add your squares. Okay? Go ahead and find your product here that's going to sit beside cosine. Once you're here, this is where people tend to make their mistakes. You can't get rid of this 1456 right away. We've got to get rid of the sum here of our squares. So we subtract that. Then we can divide by our product. Take your inverse cosine, and you're there. All right, so we should only have one problem left because that was number 15. Ah, here it is. Number 16. So we're trying to find x. Looks like it's a side length, so we'll round to the nearest tenth there. Notice our setup for number 16 is not unfamiliar with, say, number 11 or number 12. So again, it's another law of cosine scenario. Again, the side that I don't know goes here. So let's see here. So x squared equals our two sides. So 20 squared plus 25 squared minus 2 times our two sides. So times 20 times 25. Cosine of the angle that's across from the side we don't know, and that's 28. Wonderful. So here we go. Let's start off. Calculator we can use on all of this here. So 20 squared plus 25 squared, good, that all matches, minus 2 times 20 times 25, good, that matches, times our cosine of 28, make sure I type that in right. Oh, where are we at? X squared equals 142.05. And again, I'm not going to write it all out because calculator will store it. We'll take our square root now, so second square root immediately, second our answer, and it'll plug it in for us. See, what are we finding? A side length, so the nearest tenth, there it is. So we're looking at roughly 11.9 units. All right, so that takes care of your review for law of sines and law of cosines, problems 1 through 16. The other review that I gave you in class, or the sub gave you in class, all the answers should be attached. I'll make sure that we post it as well. But again, all the answers should be attached to your sheet. Best of luck to you, and if you need help, see me in the morning on Monday.